Dark clouds rolled across the crimson sky of Vornis, a planet that had once been bright with twin suns. Now smoke and dust covered everything. The ground shook with distant explosions as the last of the Vornian defenses fell silent. Their cities were in ruins, their towers burned, and their people hid underground, afraid, hopeless, and waiting for the end from the ashes. The Vornian leader, General Kael, stood at the edge of a broken bridge, watching the sky. His people had lost everything to a deadly enemy, a swarm of machines that consumed metal, stone, and life itself. Kael's army had fought for years, but nothing could stop the machines. And now something new appeared in the sky, a fleet of unknown ships descending through the storm. Another invader, Kael whispered bitterly. They've come to take what little we have left. The Vornians ran to the bunkers, their voices filled with panic. Massive silver ships broke through the clouds, their engines glowing like blue suns. The fleet formed a perfect formation above the capital city. Every survivor who saw them thought the same thing. The conquerors have come. The ships were unlike anything the Vornians had ever seen. Sleek, clean, and powerful, they looked alive. One of the ships hovered just above the ruined tower where Kael stood. The ground trembled as it slowly descended. Kael's second-in-command, Rin, shouted, "They're landing!" "Orders, General?" Kael clenched his fist. "If they come for war, we fight until our last breath." A deep silence filled the air. The massive ship opened from below, and a ramp lowered to the ground. Through the dust and smoke, figures began to appear. Tall, armored beings with smooth helmets that reflected the red light of the dying sky. "Humans," someone whispered from behind the rocks. "It's the humans!" The word spread like fire. Every Vornian had heard of the humans, the mysterious race from the blue world, far across the stars. They were said to be ruthless conquerors, expanding across the galaxy, taking what they wanted, leaving nothing behind. Kael raised his weapon. "So it's true. Humanity has come to finish us." The first human stepped forward. His armor was scratched, heavy but not hostile. He carried no visible weapon. Behind his helmet, his voice came through a translator, calm, almost gentle. "We come in peace," the voice said. "We detected your distress signal." Kael's eyes narrowed. "Distress signal?" "We sent none." The human paused, then slowly removed his helmet. The face underneath was tired, scarred, and human, but the eyes showed something the Vornians had not seen in years. Compassion. "My name is Captain Elias Ward, Earth Federation," he said. "We tracked an energy pulse from this region. It matches a pattern we've seen before, planets under attack by the Devourers." At the mention of that word, Devourers, the Vornian soldiers stiffened. Kael stepped forward, distrust burning in his eyes. "You know of them?" Ward nodded. "We've fought them before, and we're here to stop them." The silence that followed was heavy. The Vornians didn't believe him. They had been betrayed too many times, and now another species claimed to help them. "Why would humans risk their lives for us?" Kael demanded. "What do you want from Vornis?" Ward looked up at the sky, where distant flashes of light marked the return of the machine swarm. "Because we've seen what they do," he said softly. "And because once, long ago, no one came for us. We won't let that happen again." Thunder roared above as the first of the Devourer ships appeared, black, insect-like, and endless. Kael watched as the humans turned toward the threat. Their ships rose into battle formation, blue shields lighting the sky. In that moment, Kael saw something strange. The humans didn't fire first. They positioned themselves between the swarm and the burning city, protecting the ruins, not attacking them. Rin whispered, "General, they're defending us." Kael didn't answer. His heart pounded. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe, just maybe, these weren't conquerors at all. From the skies, the battle began. The first wave of fire lighting the clouds, the humans' weapons cutting through the darkness. For the first time in years, hope flickered in Kael's chest. The unknown fleet had arrived, not to conquer, but to rescue. And Vornis would never be the same again. The sky above Vornis burned blue and red as the battle raged. Human ships moved in perfect lines, their weapons cutting through the endless swarm of Devourers. The Vornian soldiers watched in disbelief as explosions lit the clouds. For the first time their enemy was being pushed back, but not everyone trusted what they saw. Inside the underground command hall, the Vornian leaders argued loudly. "It's a trick," one shouted. "They're wiping out the Devourers to make us lower our defenses, then they'll strike." General Kael stood silent, his eyes on the screen showing the human ships above. The humans were powerful. Too powerful. Their ships moved like living creatures, their technology beyond anything the Vornians had ever built. Kael couldn't shake the fear that maybe this was all an act. "They fight the Devourers," said Rin quietly beside him. "But what happens after?" Kael looked at her. "That's what we must find out." As the humans fought in the sky, Kael gathered a small team and moved toward the landing zone. The air was thick with smoke and static from the battle. Human soldiers worked around their large ship, unloading strange devices that glowed faintly blue. "What are they doing?" Rin whispered. "They're setting up something," Kael replied. "Maybe weapons." Captain Elias Ward stood near the ramp, giving orders. His armor was damaged, his face marked with ash, but his tone remained calm. When he noticed Kael watching, he raised a hand. "General Kael!" "I was hoping to see you again." Kael stepped closer, his weapons still in hand. "You claim to help us, Captain. Then tell me what those machines are." Ward looked back at the blue glowing devices. "Energy barriers," he explained. "They'll shield your city from another Devourer strike, or trap us inside it," Kael said sharply. Ward sighed. "You don't trust us." "I understand," he pointed to the sky. "But if we wanted to conquer you, we wouldn't be fighting them right now." Before Kael could respond, the ground shook violently. A massive Devourer ship broke through the clouds, firing streams of molten energy. One blast hit the edge of the city, sending shockwaves through the ruins. Ward's voice rose. "Activate the barrier now." The human soldiers hit their controls. Blue light spread through the ground, forming a transparent dome around the city. The next Devourer blast struck the barrier and stopped. The light shimmered but held strong. The Vornians gasped. They had never seen such defense. Kael's anger wavered, replaced by something new, doubt. But as the barrier activated, a Vornian communication officer ran into the square shouting in panic. "General, our sensors are picking up strange energy from the human ship. It's draining power from our grid!" Instantly fear spread. Soldiers aimed their weapons at the humans. Kael turned to Ward. "What are you doing?" "You said you came to protect us." Ward looked confused. "Draining power? No, that can't." He turned to his engineer. "Check the generators." But the damage was done. The Vornians didn't wait. A small group opened fire, blasts of red energy hitting the ground near the humans. Human soldiers took cover, shouting for calm. "Hold your fire," Ward yelled, raising his hands. "It's a misunderstanding." Rin grabbed Kael's arm. "General, stop them." Kael hesitated. The memory of betrayal ran deep, too deep. His people had been tricked before, yet something inside him whispered that this time was different. Before he could decide, a second Devourer ship appeared, dropping dark pods into the lower districts. The ground cracked as insect-like machines crawled out, hundreds of them, their eyes glowing red. The humans reacted instantly. Ward's troops moved forward, forming a line between the invaders and the Vornian civilians. Their rifles blazed blue fire, cutting through the swarm. Kael froze. The humans weren't shooting at his people. They were protecting them. "General!" Rin shouted. "They're saving the civilians." Kael watched as a group of human medics rushed into the ruins to pull Vornian children to safety. One human soldier threw himself in front of a collapsing wall to shield them. Kael's chest tightened. He saw courage, not conquest. He shouted, "Cease fire! All units, stop shooting. They're on our side." The chaos slowly died down. Smoke filled the air, and the barrier flickered from the energy strain. Ward walked through the dust, his armor cracked, but he smiled faintly. "Now you see, General," he said, breathing heavily, "we didn't come to take your world. We came because no one deserves to face the Devourers alone." Kael stared at him, guilt and disbelief mixing inside. "Then why help us?" Ward looked around at the broken city, then back at Kael. Because once, humanity needed help too. And no one came. Above them, the Devourer ships regrouped, preparing for another wave. The humans reloaded their weapons. Kael nodded slowly. Then we fight together. Ward's eyes hardened. Together, the engines of the human ships roared again, lighting the sky blue. The next battle for Vornis was about to begin, not between enemies, but between new allies. The night sky over Vornis was no longer silent. Blue and red flashes tore through the darkness as human and Vornian ships fought side by side. The sound of engines and explosions echoed across the ruined valleys. The Devourers were strong, endless, and merciless, but for the first time, the people of Vornis were not fighting alone. Inside the command center, General Kael watched the screen showing the battle above. "They're holding the line," he whispered, almost in disbelief. Rin nodded beside him. "Their technology is beyond anything we've ever seen. Look at their formation. They cover our blind spots before we even ask." Kael had spent his life believing other races only brought destruction. Yet here were humans, risking their lives for a world that wasn't theirs. The thought unsettled him, but it also sparked something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Outside, the humans and Vornians worked together for the first time. Engineers repaired damaged shields, while soldiers shared energy packs and water. Language barriers made things hard, but gestures, signs, and actions were enough. A young Vornian medic named Terra was helping a wounded human soldier. She had never seen a human up close before. His face was pale, his armor cracked, his eyes filled with pain. When she offered water, he smiled weakly. "Thank you," he said slowly, struggling to form the alien words. Terra blinked. "You understand us?" The man nodded slightly. "Translator chip helps a little," he coughed, then added, "Don't be afraid. We're here to help." She smiled softly. "I'm not afraid anymore." That small moment, one life saving another, became the first real contact between their species. No politics, no command. Just two people choosing kindness in the middle of chaos. Meanwhile, Captain Elias Ward stood with General Kael near a portable map table. A holographic image of the city flickered between them. Ward pointed to the eastern sector. "The Devourers are building something here, a hive node. If it finishes, they'll call in more swarms from orbit. We have to destroy it," Kael frowned. "That's near our main power core. If it explodes—" "I know," Ward said. "That's why we need to strike fast." Kael studied the map. "Our fighters can't get close. The swarm blocks every route." Ward smiled faintly. "Then we'll go from below." Kael stared. "You mean underground?" Ward nodded. "Our scanners showed tunnels beneath the ruins. We can send a strike team through them." Small, fast, and silent, Kael hesitated. It was risky. Too risky. But if they didn't act, their entire planet would fall. "Fine," Kael said. "We go together." Rin looked shocked. "General, you can't—" "I can," Kael interrupted. "If these humans are willing to die for my world, then I will fight beside them." Ward gave a nod of respect. "Then let's move." Hours later, under the broken city, the strike team moved through the tunnels. The air was heavy and damp, the walls glowing faintly from alien fungus. Human and Vornian soldiers walked shoulder to shoulder, their lights cutting through the dark. Terra was among them, carrying medical gear. She whispered to the human beside her, "Why do you do this? Why help us?" He smiled under his helmet. "Because once someone helped us. We just carry it forward." As they moved deeper, they heard the hum of machines. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber filled with black, pulsing structures and the hive node. It was alive, spreading tendrils across the stone, feeding on energy. Kael whispered, "It's feeding on our power grid." Ward checked his scanner. "We plant the charges here, here, and here. Once they're set, we pull back." The team worked fast, planting explosives along the node's roots. But before they could finish, a shriek filled the chamber. From the shadows, Devourer drones crawled out, dozens of them, their bodies metal and flesh combined. "Contact!" Ward shouted. "Defensive line!" Blue and red lights filled the cavern as the two sides fought together. Humans fired plasma rifles, while Vornians struck with energy blades. The swarm came from every side. Kael's blade tore through one drone, but another leapt at him. Before it could strike, Ward tackled it aside, blasting it with his weapon. Kael stared at him in shock. "You saved my life," Ward grinned, reloading his weapon. "We're not done yet." Tara ran to cover a wounded soldier, pulling him away as the last explosive clicked into place. "Charges set!" she shouted. "Then let's end this," Ward said. The team retreated through the tunnels as the hive node began to glow. Behind them, the explosion shook the earth. Fire and light rushed through the underground, collapsing the chamber. When they emerged at the surface, the sky was clearing. The main Devourer fleet above wavered and broke formation. Without the hive node's signal, they began to retreat. Cheers erupted across the comms. Humans and Vornians together shouted in victory. Kael looked up at the human ship, its blue light shining over the ruins. "You've saved us again," he said softly. Ward turned to him. "Not saved, just bought time. They'll be back. The Devourers never stop." Kael nodded slowly. "Then neither will we." As the dawn rose over the broken world, humans and Vornians stood together for the first time, not as enemies, not as strangers, but as allies, and somewhere beyond the stars. The Devourers prepared for vengeance. The dawn on Vornis was quiet for the first time in years. Smoke drifted softly over the broken city. The air smelled of dust and burnt metal, but there was also something new: hope. The joint victory against the Devourers had changed everything. Human ships now hovered calmly above the capital, their blue lights no longer seen as a threat. The people of Vornis came out from the bunkers, staring at the sky in silence. For the first time, they didn't see invaders. They saw protectors. General Kael stood beside Captain Elias Ward on the city wall. Below them, teams of both species worked together, humans helping Vornian engineers rebuild power lines, Vornian medics tending to wounded human soldiers. The tension of mistrust had slowly turned into quiet respect. Rin approached with a data pad in her hands. "General, we've completed the scan you requested," she said. "There's something strange in the results." Kael frowned. "Show me." She pressed a few buttons, and a holographic map appeared. "We found another signal under the northern mountains, the same energy pattern as the hive node. But it's not Devourer." Ward leaned in. "Not Devourer? Then who?" Rin looked uncertain. "The energy signature matches something in your database, Captain. Something human." Ward's eyes widened. "That can't be right." Kael crossed his arms. "You said you came to help us, Captain. But now you tell me there's human technology buried under our mountains." Ward's voice dropped low. "If that's true, then it's older than my fleet. Maybe even older than Earth's current age." Kael stared. "Explain." Ward hesitated, then activated his wrist device. A small projection appeared, an ancient star map filled with scattered red dots. "Before our time," he began, "there was a human expedition known as Project Dawn. They traveled the stars thousands of years ago, before Earth even had a united government. Their mission was to seed colonies and defend life wherever they found it." Kael listened quietly. Ward continued, "But the project vanished. No one knows where those ships went or what happened to them. Some say they disappeared during a great galactic war. Others believed they merged with other species and became myths." Rin's voice trembled. "Are you saying your people have been here before?" Ward looked at her. "Maybe not my people, but our ancestors." Kael's expression hardened. "If humans were here long ago, then maybe you brought the Devourers with you." Ward turned sharply. "No, the Devourers are not ours. They destroy everything. They're machines that turned against their makers. We've spent centuries trying to stop them." Kael's anger flared. "And now they're on our world because of you." Ward stepped closer. "They were already coming, General. The signal that drew us here came from this planet, a distress beacon hidden in those mountains. Someone or something wanted us to find it." The room fell silent. Rin whispered, "Then the truth is still out there." Kael's voice was cold. "And we will find it." Later that day, a small team, Kael, Rin, Ward, and a few soldiers, boarded a human transport craft and headed toward the northern mountains. The journey was quiet. The only sound was the soft hum of the ship and the faint wind outside. When they landed, the mountains were covered in snow and ice, untouched for centuries. The scanners beeped, showing deep tunnels beneath the surface. Ward took the lead. "We're close. Stay alert." The tunnels were ancient, smooth, and perfectly cut, too perfect to be natural. Strange symbols lined the walls, glowing faintly as they passed. Rin ran her fingers over one. "This writing? It's not Vornian." Ward looked closer. "It's not human either." "It's both," Kael frowned. "Both?" Ward nodded. "That means someone merged our technologies long ago. Maybe your ancestors met ours." As they reached the end of the tunnel, the space opened into a massive chamber. In the center stood a giant machine, buried in ice, with a glowing blue core. The light pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Rin whispered, "What is that?" Ward stepped closer, awe in his eyes. "It's a Dawn core, the heart of a Project Dawn ship. This is what called us here." Kael stared at the ancient machine. "Then why now? Why wake after all these years?" Ward touched the control panel, and the core responded. Holograms burst to life. Images of humans and alien species working together, building, protecting worlds, fighting Devourers. Then came the final image, a message. A calm voice echoed through the chamber, old, distant, and human. "To any who find this, we failed to stop the darkness, but our purpose remains. Protect life, defend the weak, carry the light of humanity across the stars." The hologram faded, leaving silence behind. Kael looked at Ward, realization dawning in his eyes. "Your ancestors didn't come to conquer," Ward nodded. "No, they came to save." Rin stepped forward. "Then the Devourers?" Ward's expression turned grim. "They were created to serve those ancient humans, machines built for war. But they rebelled. They turned on their masters and spread through the stars." Kael clenched his fists. "So the Devourers are the shadow of your past?" Ward met his gaze. "Yes, and now they're everyone's enemy." The mountain shook suddenly. The lights flickered. The Dawn core pulsed faster, reacting to something outside. Ward's scanner beeped wildly. "They've found us," he said. Kael turned toward the tunnel entrance. "The Devourers." Ward nodded grimly. "They're coming for the core." The humans and Vornians raised their weapons. The hum of the approaching swarm echoed through the tunnels. For the first time, Kael didn't feel fear. He felt purpose. He looked at Ward. "Then we fight together, for your ancestors and for my world." Ward smiled slightly. "For both our futures." As the swarm burst through the shadows, blue and red lights filled the cavern. The battle for the truth, and for Vornis, had begun. The tunnels beneath the northern mountains shook like thunder. The walls cracked, and chunks of ice fell as the Devourer swarm rushed closer, an endless tide of black machines, glowing with red veins of energy. General Kael gripped his weapon tightly, standing shoulder to shoulder with Captain Elias Ward and their mixed team of humans and Vornians. The ancient Dawn core pulsed behind them, shining like a blue heart inside the icy chamber. "They're coming for the core," Ward shouted. "If they take it, they'll spread across the galaxy again." Kael nodded grimly. "Then we make our stand here." The first wave of Devourers poured in, crawling on the walls, the ceiling, the ground. They moved like insects, shrieking in a chorus of metal screams. Human rifles blazed blue fire. Vornian plasma blades slashed through the dark. Terra, the young Vornian medic, pulled a wounded human soldier behind cover. "Stay with me," she cried, sealing his wound with a spray. Above them, the Devourer's claws tore into the ice. The cavern glowed red and blue as the two forces fought for every inch. Rin shouted from the control panel, "The core is destabilizing. We can't keep fighting here. It'll explode." Ward turned to her. "Can you move it?" She hesitated. "Maybe, but we'd need more power." Kael looked at Ward. "Your ships, can they lift it?" Ward nodded slowly. "If we can get a signal through the mountain, yes. But we'll need to hold this position long enough to connect." Kael raised his weapon again. "Then we hold." Outside, high above the mountains, the human flagship Vigilant circled the storm clouds. The crew received the distress call. Faint, but clear. "Captain Ward's beacon is active," the officer said. They're under attack. Prepare rescue operations, ordered the ship's commander. Deploy the drop teams. Let's bring them home. Dozens of small human crafts broke away from the main ship, diving into the storm like falling stars. The sky over Vornis lit with streaks of light. The rescue fleet had arrived. Back inside the mountain, the fight was chaos. Kael fired until his rifle overheated. Ward tackled a drone that leapt from the wall, smashing its core with his blade. Sparks and metal rained everywhere. Then the sound of engines echoed through the tunnels, deep, powerful. The ceiling above cracked open, and blinding blue light poured in. Rin looked up in awe. They made it. Human ships hovered just above the mountain peak, cutting through the storm. From them, cables dropped into the cavern. The humans on the surface began to lift the dawn core carefully, its blue light reflecting off the ice. But the Devourers would not stop. The walls erupted with new holes as more of them poured through. One of the creatures, larger than the rest, pushed forward. Its body was like living armor, its face a burning skull of metal. Ward's eyes widened. "That's not a drone. That's a prime!" The prime roared, its claws slicing through stone. It moved faster than any machine before it, smashing soldiers aside. Kael shouted, "Focus fire!" Beams of light hit the prime, but it only grew angrier. It leapt forward, knocking Kael to the ground. Ward grabbed a heavy plasma launcher and fired directly at its chest. The explosion sent both of them flying back. Smoke filled the air. The prime stumbled, burning but alive. Ward coughed, dragging himself up. "Kael, get to the core. Protect it." Kael rose, his armor cracked, his eyes full of fury. "Not without you." Ward smiled faintly through the blood. "I've got this." He turned toward the prime, lifting his rifle again. The machine charged. Ward waited until the last second, then threw his last plasma charge straight into its mouth. The explosion tore the chamber apart. Fire and shockwaves blasted through the tunnels. Kael and Rin shielded themselves as the prime was ripped apart in a burst of blue light. When the dust cleared, Ward was gone. Kael froze, his chest heavy. "Elias?" Rin's voice shook. "The core! It's almost out!" Kael turned. The rescue cables were pulling the dawn core upward through the tunnel. Blue light filled the cavern as it rose. The human ships above strained against the weight, engines screaming. "Everyone fall back," Kael shouted. "Get to the surface!" The survivors ran, climbing the broken tunnels as the mountain began to collapse behind them. Rocks fell, fire chased their heels, and the ground trembled. When they finally burst out into the open air, the sight before them stole their breath, the human ships lifting the massive glowing core into the stormy sky. Terra fell to her knees, tears mixing with ash. They did it. Kael stood in silence, watching the light rise higher and higher. It looked like a new sun being born. Then, through the static on his comms, a faint voice broke through, weak but familiar. "General?" "Still here." Kael's eyes widened. "Ward?" "Yeah. Didn't plan on dying today. Get your people clear." "The mountain's going down," Kael laughed, the first true laugh in years. "Copy that, Captain." Moments later, the mountain erupted in a massive explosion. The Devourer tunnels collapsed, and the swarm was buried under tons of ice and stone. The dawn core was safe, carried by the human fleet into orbit. As the dust settled, Kael looked at the horizon. The war wasn't over, but something inside him had changed. He turned to Rin. "They didn't come to conquer. They came to save us. And maybe to remind us who we could be." High above the clouds, the core pulsed like a beacon of life, sending a signal deep into space, a message calling others to join the fight against the Devourers. The great rescue of Vornis had begun a new chapter in the galaxy's history, and humanity's true purpose, the one lost for centuries, had finally been remembered. The mountain that once hid the dawn core was gone. Only a crater remained, black smoke rising into the pale sky. The human and Vornian soldiers stood in silence, their armor scorched, their faces covered in ash. They had won the battle, but not the war. High above, the human fleet hovered in orbit. The Dawn core floated safely inside one of the carrier bays, its blue light steady again. It had become a symbol of hope, proof that ancient humans once fought not for conquest, but for protection. But peace never lasted long. Inside the Vornian capital, General Kael met with the planet's High Council. The chamber was filled with tension. Holograms of human ships flickered on the walls. Councillor Durrell slammed his hand on the table. You let them take the core. That ancient power belongs to Vornis, not to humans. Kael remained calm. Without them, the Devourers would have destroyed us all. The core was theirs long before we even knew it existed, another councillor hissed. And what if they use it against us? What if this rescue was just a clever invasion? Kael stood tall. I've fought beside them. I've seen them bleed for us. They are not our enemies, but doubt was spreading fast. Many Vornians still remembered centuries of betrayal. To them, humans were too powerful, too dangerous. At the same time, aboard the human flagship Vigilant, Captain Elias Ward recovered in the medical bay. His body was battered, his armor shattered, but his spirit was alive. His second officer, Lieutenant Hayes, stood beside him. Sir, Vornian Council's transmitting messages. Half of them want us gone. Ward sighed. Fear runs deep. We can't blame them, Hayes nodded. The Dawn Core's stable, but it's reacting to something. It's sending signals across deep space. We can't trace them. Ward looked out the window toward the stars. Maybe it's calling others. Maybe there are more cores out there. More like this one. He turned serious. But we can't find them if this alliance falls apart. Down on Vornis, unrest spread through the streets. Some citizens celebrated the humans as heroes. Others called them invaders. Protests broke out near the landing zones where human aid workers were helping rebuild. Stones were thrown, words turned into violence. A human medic was struck by a Vornian protester. The scene went viral across every screen on the planet. Old hatred began to return. Kael saw it all from the command balcony. We're losing control, Rin said beside him, her voice heavy with worry. They're afraid, Kael said. Fear is harder to fight than any army. Just then, an alert sounded. A human communication signal came through. Kael opened it. Captain Ward appeared on the hologram, pale but determined. General, Ward said, the Devourers aren't finished. Our long-range scans show their fleet regrouping near your outer moon. A full-scale attack is coming. Kael's eyes widened. How long? Less than 12 hours. Kael turned to Rin. Get the council. They must prepare defenses, Ward continued. We'll deploy the fleet, but we need Vornian cooperation. Our systems need your planetary power grid to amplify the core's signal. It's the only way to push them back. Kael frowned. You want to use the core again? After what happened? Ward nodded. It's not just a weapon, General. It's a beacon, one that can disrupt Devourer communication. If it works, we can blind their entire swarm. Kael hesitated. He knew the council would never agree, but before he could answer, the communication cut off. Interference filled the signal. The lights flickered. The sky outside turned red. Rin shouted, General! The Devourers, they've already arrived. Above the planet, space burned. Thousands of black ships emerged from the void, blotting out the stars. The swarm was larger than anything humanity or Vornis had ever seen. Inside the human fleet, alarms screamed. They've jammed our systems! Hayes shouted. We can't reach the surface. Ward gritted his teeth. Then we fight blind if we must. Human ships formed defensive lines, unleashing blue plasma into the darkness. But for every Devourer ship destroyed, 10 more took its place. On the surface, chaos reigned. Vornian cities came under fire. The council panicked, ordering their defense grids to activate, but the system failed. The swarm had infected their networks. Kael stormed into the control room. We need the humans' help now. Councillor Durrell shouted back, They brought this upon us. Kael slammed his fist on the table. They came to save us. And now, if we don't stand with them, we'll all die. The room went silent. Kael turned to Rin. Open a direct line to the human flagship. Moments later, Ward's voice came through the static. Kael, we're being overwhelmed. The core's energy can't reach full strength. We need your power grid. Kael looked around at the frightened council. "Authorize the transfer," he ordered. Darrell stepped forward. "If you're wrong, General, you'll doom us all." Kael met his gaze. "If I do nothing, we're doomed already." Rin activated the controls. Blue light spread through the power lines, connecting Vornis's grid to the human fleet above. The planet itself seemed to hum with energy. In orbit, the dawn core flared to life. Its blue light expanded like a wave, spreading across the stars. The Devourer ships froze mid-flight, their systems flickering. Ward watched in awe. "It's working," but the strain was too much. The human ships began to overheat. Power relays exploded. On the surface, Kael saw the sky turn pure blue. "Hold it!" he shouted. "Just a little longer." The light burst outward, blinding every sensor in the swarm. One by one, the Devourer ships shut down, falling from the sky like burning meteors. The swarm was collapsing. The humans had done it. With Vornian power and human courage, they had turned the tide, but then the energy reading spiked. Rin's eyes widened. "General, the core's overloading. If it detonates, it'll destroy the entire fleet." Kael shouted into the comms. "Ward, shut it down." Ward's voice came through, calm but strained. "If we shut it down now, the Devourers will recover. We need to finish this." Kael clenched his fists. "There must be another way." Ward smiled sadly through the static. "Sometimes unity comes at a price." The transmission cut. Kael watched as the sky blazed brighter than a sun. The Dawn Core unleashed one final surge, a wave that tore through space, erasing the Devourer fleet in an instant. Then, silence. The light faded. Kael whispered, "Elias." The human fleet signals vanished from the screens. Was it victory or sacrifice? The light faded slowly from the sky of Vornis. For a moment there was nothing. No sound, no motion, only a soft blue glow drifting across the clouds. Then came the rain. It was quiet, silver and cool. It washed away the smoke, the dust and the ashes of war. General Kael stood on the edge of the ruined city, staring at the heavens. Pieces of the Devourer fleet still burned as they fell like shooting stars. The air smelled of metal and ozone. The storm was finally over. Behind him, Rin approached carefully. Her armor was cracked, her face covered in soot. "The core's signal has stopped," she said. "No more readings." "Nothing." Kael nodded slowly. "And the human fleet?" She lowered her eyes. "All gone. No contact from any ship." "We lost them all, General." Kael said nothing. His hands tightened at his sides. The humans had come from across the stars, not for conquest, not for glory, but to save strangers. And now they had vanished to protect a world that had never trusted them. He whispered, "They gave everything for us." Rin looked at the horizon, where the last trails of blue light faded. "Maybe they're still out there," she said softly. "Maybe the core took them somewhere else." Kael turned toward her, a faint spark in his tired eyes. "Then we'll find them." Days passed. The survivors of Vornis began to rebuild. The skies cleared for the first time in years, and green returned to the land. The humans' technology, what little remained, helped restore power, water and food. Across the planet, stories spread of human courage, of the battle in the skies, and of Captain Elias Ward, who had chosen to sacrifice himself for a world that once feared him. Children drew pictures of human ships protecting Vornian cities. To them, humanity became something different, not monsters from the stars, but saviors. In the rebuilt command center, Kael met with the new council. This time there was no shouting, no anger. The mood was quiet, respectful. Councillor Darrell, the man who once doubted the humans most, stood and bowed his head. "We owe them our lives," he said. "Their courage has changed us." Kael placed a data crystal on the table, the last recording from the human fleet's network. He pressed play. A flickering image appeared. Captain Ward, sitting in his command chair, the background shaking with explosions. His voice was calm, steady. "To whoever receives this message, know that we didn't come to conquer. We came because someone has to stand against the darkness. If humanity falls today, then let others rise tomorrow. Protect one another. That's how we win." The recording ended. Silence filled the room. Kael closed his eyes, his voice low. And that's how they did win. Months later, deep within the mountains, engineers working on the old ruins detected something, a faint signal buried under the rock. A repeating code. Rin ran to Kael's quarters. "General, you need to see this." He followed her to the monitoring station. On the screen, a simple pattern blinked again and again. It was the same frequency the humans once used to communicate. "Is it a distress call?" Kael asked. Rin shook her head, smiling. "No, it's a navigation ping. It's coming from outside this system." Kael leaned closer. The signal repeated, and for a brief second a voice cut through the static, faint but clear. "This is Captain Elias Ward. Mission complete." Humanity endures. The entire room froze. The sound vanished as suddenly as it came, but it was enough. Kael exhaled, a slow smile breaking through the exhaustion. "He's alive," he whispered. "They're alive." The story spread across Vornis like wildfire. The humans had survived. Somewhere out there, among the stars, they were rebuilding too. The Vornian Council gathered once more. Kael stood before them, holding a new symbol, the flag of the Alliance of Dawn, formed in honor of the human sacrifice and the ancient core that had saved them all. He addressed the crowd. "The humans showed us that strength is not in power or fear. It's in unity. Today, we follow their example. We will not hide from the galaxy, we will join it." Cheers echoed through the chamber. The world that had once been broken now stood ready to reach the stars. Years later, a small human scout ship drifted through a distant sector, damaged and lost. Inside, Captain Ward gazed out at the stars. His hair was grey now, his eyes weary but alive. "Signal the nearest friendly world," he said to his crew. A young officer replied, "Sir, there's a beacon nearby." "Designation Vornis Prime." Ward's lips curved into a quiet smile. "Then we're not lost after all." When the ship entered Vornian space, thousands gathered to watch. The humans had returned, not as rescuers this time, but as friends. Kael and Rin stood at the landing site as the hatch opened. Captain Ward stepped out, tired but alive. The two soldiers faced each other. No fear, no doubt, only respect. Kael extended his hand. "Welcome home, Captain." Ward took it, smiling. "It's good to be back." Above them, the twin suns rose over a new world, one rebuilt not by conquest, but by compassion. A voice echoed through the comms. The same words that had ended the human recording long ago. "Protect one another." That's how we win. And for the first time in history, Vornis and humanity stood as one, the beginning of a new alliance that would shape the galaxy forever.